Welcome in my ASVAB party people. I'm Coach Anderson, and in this video, we're going to be exploring the 5 study habits of successful ASVAB students. We all know how frustrating it is when you put in all that time and effort into studying, but then it turns out you don't even feel like you're making progress. Being effective and efficient when it comes to studying is the main factor in terms of how long it's going to take you to get that score that you want. And we all know getting the score you want means getting the job you deserve and serving our country. So with that said, welcome to the 5 study habits of successful ASVAB students. We'll be going over how to be consistent, how to shift your mindset, learning from those mistakes, how to start with the basics, and mixing up those study materials. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive in so we can ace the ASVAB. So before we get started, it's going to be super important for us to understand first what the ASVAB is. So remember that the ASVAB stands for Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, right over there. And pretty much all it is a standardized test that tests your skills in 10 different subtests. So the first step to enlisting in the military is going to be the ASVAB. You have to qualify for a job. And it's very important that we focus on the AFQT. So the AFQT is going to be comprised of what? Your 4 main subjects, 2 math and 2 English. We have math knowledge, arithmetic reasoning, word knowledge, and paragraph comprehension. These are the ones that you should focus on to make sure that you qualify at the very least for a job in the military. Everything else doesn't matter until you know the specific job you want. But everyone needs to pass the AFQT, again, the 2 math and the 2 English. So if you already knew that, awesome. If you didn't, I'm glad I could inform you, because now we're going to move right into, again, the 5 study habits of successful ASVAB students, starting with number 1, being consistent. Being consistent is so important because it's not about cramming your way to a passing score. That's not how the ASVAB works. The ASVAB actually is a trap for that kind of studier. If you study in that way, I promise you, you will not see the score that you want. So go ahead, take this advice from me, myself, Coach Anderson, and everybody else who's creating content saying the same thing. Number 1, you gotta set goals for yourself. If you don't have any goals, then you can't really feel like you're achieving anything. So setting goals, very first thing you need to do. It's not just about studying for 8 hours, but saying, hey, what is it that I'm trying to learn today? What do I want to build comfort in today? Next up, well, you need to go ahead and build a study plan for yourself. Setting goals is number 1, then making a plan to get there is number 2. And then beyond that, 2 weeks leading up to the exam, we need to be testing ourselves every single day. At that 2-week mark, we have to understand what our flaws are and what advantages we have, what we are comfortable with. That way we can make any micro adjustments. That way we can really achieve the score we want. So remember, in terms of being consistent, we need to be consistently working towards the goal of the job you want. So we need to focus on that score you want so you can achieve and you can work for it. So again, number 1, be consistent. Set goals, make a plan, and leading up to the test, we need to be testing ourselves every single day. We want to make sure that we feel that pressure now and not at MEPS. So if that makes sense, moving right along to number 2, we have to know how to shift our attitude. Remember, my party people, it's not your fault, or maybe it could be, in terms of your ability and skill level in mathematics or English right now. You could have had a teacher that was less than ideal for you. You could have had an upbringing that was, again, less than ideal for you. But none of that matters, because it's not about pointing at somebody and blaming somebody else. It's about owning the responsibility of raising our scores and getting the jobs that we want. So we need to shift our attitudes here. Take in that responsibility, all right? And we need to see this as beyond studying math or studying English or vocabulary. It's much more than that. You're studying for your career. If you get the score you want, you get the career of your choice. And trust me, not everybody in life gets the privilege of choosing the career of their choice. You have that opportunity, so make sure that you understand that that's what you're working for, not just math and English, but for your career. So this needs to be looked at as an opportunity for you to grow, not just to, again, memorize questions. No, this is about growing as an individual. That way, when we go take the test, it's not oh man, I'm really intimidated by this test. No. You're going to see the test itself, the official ASVAB, as an opportunity to go ahead and show what you know. You won't be intimidated when all you're trying to do is just do your best. So again, my party people, number 2 here, shift that attitude. You are studying for your career, not just any old test. So treat it seriously. Put that passion behind every time that you sit down to study, and I promise you those results will become a lot better and faster when it comes to having the mindset that we need to grow in this space. Number 3, learn from your mistakes. It's way too often that myself as an educator, I have a master's degree, I've been teaching for well over 10 years, and so often I see students who make mistakes on practice tests or when they're studying, but they don't look back at their answers. They don't look back at their work to try to understand why they got these questions right or wrong. It's too important to learn from our mistakes because on the actual test, you don't get that opportunity. You don't. So learn from your mistakes now while you practice and really take a genuine and a very intuitive look as to, okay, what do I understand about this problem? What did I do right? Where did I get stuck? What do I need to do to make sure that this doesn't happen to me again? The more you think about it in this conversational way, as opposed to, and you tell me, I'm not even going to ask for your response, maybe in the comment section, but you tell me if this sounds like you. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to open my study book, I'm going to do 100 problems, and I'm going to close up that book, come back the next day, repeat the process, but then I have no idea what I learned. I have no idea how much better I am than yesterday. And that becomes a huge problem. If you're not the type of person who wants to learn from their mistakes, well, you got to shift into that mindset. All right. We have to review our mistakes and challenge ourselves. That way, again, we make the mistakes now, but not on the test. And lastly, don't be afraid to ask for help. Talk to your recruiter, talk to your tutor. If you're in a study group, ask for help there. Working together with someone else, an expert, someone who can communicate these ideas to you is going to basically be a jumpstart and a fast track to success. Those who try to do it on their own and succeed typically already had the academic acumen to get things done. But if you feel like you need help and you need a little bit of an extra personal touch, then it's okay to admit that. It's never a bad thing to say, hey, I'm not quite where I want to be, and I feel like I could get there with a little more help. No problem at all there, my math party people and my ASVAB party people. Make sure to ask for help if you need it. And so if you're looking for a tutor, well, I provide free classes on a weekly basis, and I provide a free practice test that gives you video solutions. That way, again, you can learn from every single mistake. And it's free. You can feel free to check around this video in the description to grab that link, sign up so you can start learning for free and see what it means to have a tutor and a coach who wants the best for you. Because when you work with an expert, when you work with a tutor and a coach that's there for you, we get to number 4 here, and that's going to be starting with the basics. Starting with the basics is way too important. As the old saying goes, you can't build a house on mud. Again, you can't build a house on mud. What happens if you try to build a house on mud? Well, you're going to be rebuilding that house in a couple of days. So here's the idea. We need a proper foundation. We need a strong foundation, because with a strong foundation, you can learn these complicated topics. But here's the thing, and I'm going to talk about math specifically. When you learn how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide with negatives, with decimals, with fractions, with percentages, when you know how to do these basic things like solving equations and convert units, then it builds the foundation for you to look at word problems and say, hey, oh, okay, that's how you set it up. Oh, the math, I got it. I can do the math, no problem. But oh, I see how the wording actually converts into the math now. And if you've never experienced that, well, guess what? I've got plenty of videos and content to help you get there. But here's the overarching theme here. When it comes to the basics, what I'm trying to tell you is don't rush the process. If you need to take extra time to build up on your skills with decimals or negatives or huge operations, take that time. Those problems are glaring you right in the eyes, and if you ignore that here, you're going to pay for it during the actual test. We don't want that. We want to be honest in terms of our approach, and if we need the refreshment, if we need the review, don't shy away from that. Do things the right way, because if you do, you'll get rewarded for it, and that's what we want. We don't want to be stuck in the same old cycle over and over and over again. We don't want to learn something just to forget it a day later. Starting with the basics, starting with your fundamentals will increase your confidence and your chances of passing long term. So start with the math basics. And again, if you are in my ASVAB program, you need to make sure that you start off with our math basics course, then jump into the arithmetic, reasoning, and math knowledge. And beyond that, you get all the practice tests that you could ever want to help you succeed. And of course, we have word knowledge, paragraph comprehension with those study guides, with all the materials you need every step of the way until you pass. This leads us to number 5. Mix up your study materials. We have to keep things fresh, and better yet, we have to find out what works best for you and do it. If you find something that works for you, if you find, some materials that get you excited about studying, that's amazing. That's amazing because there are others out there who treat it like a chore. Don't treat studying like a chore. This is not something that you have to do. This is something that you want to do because you want that career of your choice. So make sure that when you find what works for you, hey, go ahead and use that. Exercise that, exhaust that thing. And if you haven't, well, keep looking for different ways to find the materials that talk to you as an individual. So beyond that, when it comes to mixing up your study materials, mix up those study sessions too. Separate those study sessions to focus on one topic at a time. Here's the idea, my party people. We cannot expect ourselves to be an absolute expert at 5 different things at the same time. We can't. Just like if we're trying to go ahead and, let's say, clean our home, and you go ahead and pick up one paper that's in the living room, then you go to your room and you fold one shirt from your laundry pile, then you go to the kitchen and you only wash one dish, and then you keep going back and forth, it'll take you forever, right? And that's because the effort in switching tasks ends up overcounting or overcoming all of the effort and the progress you've made. So we don't want that. If you focus on one topic at a time, you will guarantee that you'll make more progress and you'll develop a further understanding as opposed to just skimming through and then moving on. We don't want that. So mix up those study materials and mix up those study sessions. Trust me, it'll help you out. And there it is, my math party people and my ASVAB party people. I always say math, but there it is. Those are the 5 study habits of successful ASVAB students. Now I know it's easier said than done, but being consistent, shifting that attitude, learning from those mistakes, starting with the basics, and mixing up your study materials. These are the 5 things that if you do well enough and consistently enough, you're gonna put yourself in a position above the other people who are taking the test, who are trying to compete for that job that you want. Remember, the ASVAB is a competition. Everything that you do are tiny advantages that will ultimately add up to the result that you get. So it's not gonna be a flip of a switch, yes or no. It's a bunch of tiny decisions that you commit to. You commit to, and you do this intentionally every single day, and you'll get to where you want to be. Trust me. I'm Coach Anderson, and I've helped well over 2,000 students pass the ASVAB, and because of that, I know what I'm talking about here, and I want you to feel comfortable in this space. We also have plenty of resources and materials to help you succeed, so if you like this video, go ahead and check out those materials to continue furthering yourself in this space. You can raise your score, you can get the job you want, just like everyone else who I've helped, and you're on the same track. Just be consistent, shift that attitude, learn from those mistakes, start with the basics, and mix up those study materials, and you'll be good. I'm Coach Anderson. Let's ace the ASVAB. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're a fan, and stay tuned for the next video. Cheers. And on the off chance that you didn't know, we have a free class actually once a week. We have 3 classes total, but I would love to have you in at least a free class. That way I can give you that momentum, that confidence to continue raising your score. I'm Coach Anderson. Go ahead and text next free class to 833-321-0182, and we'll reply as soon as we can with all the information, letting you know where to go to ace the ASVAB. I'll see you there.